And thank you guys for letting me, letting us have the privilege to participate in this meeting and, talk about, tell some of our stories, tell some tales from Montgomery County. Man, just what Sean just shared, got me all pumped up and everything. Cause that's why I'm involved in Why Pods, that kind of stuff. I'll kind of get into that in what I'm going to talk about, but I guess I'll give as I like to call it, the baseball card stats. So again, my name is Megan. I'm an alcoholic. I have a sobriety date of July 29th, 2012. I have a sponsor. She knows she's my sponsor. She's one of my best friends now. And I have the honor and privilege of taking women through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I am for this year, the general chair for our Montgomery County bid committee. And I am so honored to be a part of something that we've been going on for about 2.5 years. COVID kind of, had a little bit of a play factor in there, but I'm so honored to be a part of something, not only where I got sober, but where I grew up and represent that, my home roots. Which is really special to me because I don't live in Montgomery County anymore. And I still have that, it's home though, it's still home. So it's very special to, still be involved in that. I'll give a little bit about what it's like now, or what happened with, I feel like whenever you say that at a meeting, you always mess it up because for some reason on the ball, it's just hard to remember these things. So I will, my non-sober life was probably much like a lot of yours. I am the middle child of, a middle-class family. We lived in a nice suburb area outside of Philadelphia called Plymouth Meeting. We had a 3-bedroom house and a dog. Okay, so sorry about that. So yeah, as I was saying, I grew up in a little town called Plymouth Meeting out in Montgomery County. We had everything we could possibly need growing up, and I had a very loving parents that laid a very beautiful foundation for us, was very in tune to their children and what we were going through, well, at least they thought they were. They didn't really get, the stuff that I was doing to get in trouble, but that's beside the point. My first memory of drinking, and I think it's important, at least for me, to remember my first memory of drinking, because not all things are negative. There was a reason that I drank to begin with. And I remember going to a concert with my sister and tailgating before a Weezer concert I think it was in Camden, which is where some of the shows are in Jersey. Shout out to Jersey there. And had this experience that a lot of us have described, where it was like I had been living with this bodysuit on that I kept on me at all times to have this outer appearance of what I thought everybody wanted, to cover who I really was. And when I took that drink, when I started to drink and feel the effects of alcohol, because that is why I drank alcohol. It was not for any glamorous factor. It was the effects that are created by alcohol. When I drank alcohol, I was able to remove that layer that kept me and reveal my true self that I felt like I constantly hid and was uncomfortable having out in public. That's something that's very important for me to remember, because I feel today in my life, I don't hide behind that anymore. And that is something that I got as a gift of the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So moving forward, went to college, graduated, got more involved in my drinking and my habits. And I got to a point where I had my first DUI. I was 25 years old, and I had tried to leave a bar and make a 3-point turn at 2 o'clock in the morning, and got hit by another car and was arrested with a DUI. It was my first time offense, so, you know, it was a slap on the wrist, do these things here, and, you know, you'll be on your way, and it didn't really have a huge amount of consequences. I did feel scared about the idea of being in trouble because I had always been really good at hiding under the radar, that I decided to kind of stop drinking, and that lasted for 9 months. I don't know why it ended up being 9 months. It's just how it ended up. But I knew that shortly after I had stopped drinking, my sister had gotten engaged, and I was in charge of her bachelorette weekend as well as, you know, many of the other sisterly duties. And I took that as an excuse that other people would understand that I needed to start drinking again. So I had planned this big bachelorette 30th birthday weekend in Atlantic City for my sister and her friends and the family members involved. And that was supposed to be in late July. So naturally, I planned that I should start drinking in May again, because I would need a proper full 2 months of preparation in order to go hang for a weekend in Atlantic City. And like for me, I didn't think that that was a bizarre thought process, but when I talk to normal people, they don't think that way. They don't feel like there needs to be this preparation. Like that's like that whole like, you know, people pre-game for drinking where the real alcoholic is pre-gaming for the pre-game, and then there's the post-game and then the post-game. Like there's so many different levels that you don't even know what's happening, and you don't even know what level you're in for the average person that's around you. So I was like, I need to prep if I'm going to be able to hang, and not only hang, but also coordinate and run and make sure that this was a fun weekend, because that was my responsibility, right? That's what I thought my responsibility was. And I remember I went out drinking that night in May, and I had declared, which was like a bridal shower. So I survived the family party with no issues, and went out that night and got completely trashed, slept next to a toilet in my guy friend's apartment, which anyone who's ever been in a young 20-something men's bathroom, it is not the cleanest of areas to be sleeping, and woke up in the morning and was like not disgusted with myself, none of these feelings that I've had many a times. I was proud that I had hung in hard, I had partied hard, and I didn't puke. Like I had done all of the things as if I had never stopped drinking. That's very nice. Like, good job. And this is how sick my brain is. And then I think of these things as like a positive reflect of who I am. So as I progressed from that May to July period, I began to drink more than I ever had before. I couldn't go to bed without having a bottle of wine after whatever other nonsense I had done prior. Like I had it that was like, again, as I said, the post party. It was like the bottle of wine, like into bed. And then we would begin the process again of how many different levels of drinking we would have throughout the day. I'm happy to say I did make it through that bachelorette weekend without any issues or any ridiculous charges on my credit card. But it was the following weekend that I did get myself a second DUI, driving home from a party at 3:30 in the morning, because I thought the smart idea would be to fix the flat tire I had the 1 mile from my house instead of ask for any help or any of these other things that like normal people suggest. This just didn't come to my mind. I don't need anybody. I don't need help. I can do everything on my own. I am just fine being the miserable person I am right now. So when I got a flat tire at 3 o'clock in the morning, I didn't tell anybody. Nobody was asking to let them know when I came home safe. I just knew I had to take care of this. Is my responsibility, and I'm not going to get any help in this. So I'm going to do it myself. And naturally, to my shock, an officer came and was like, "What are you doing, ma'am? It is 3:30 in the morning. What are you trying to do here?" And in a matter of probably 20 minutes, I had gotten myself arrested and taken to the police department, which, wouldn't have been, I guess, the biggest of deals, but it was the police department across the street from my block that I lived on and grew up on. I had neighbors who were officers at that police department, and I had to argue with the cop in the morning. I didn't want to argue, but it turned into an argument that I really did live across the street, enough so that they would let me walk home, and I experienced the ultimate walk of shame, as I had walked this entire path from the police department to my house almost every day of my childhood to get the school bus. And here I am walking home from this police department to get to my house where there's nobody there, and I had to break in through the window to get in because the keys were not with me, they were with my car, and crawl into bed. And I remember that moment of like, dear God, just let this all be a dream, like, or something, like that this can't be real. This can't be what's really happening to me. It wasn't even a matter of the things happening. It was just, it couldn't happen to me. I had this very sick view of myself. That was the last time that I drank. That was the pivoting moment for my recovery. I can't say that I thought that I was an alcoholic at that time, but I knew that whatever I was doing was not the right thing anymore. I could not be trusted to make good decisions because they always landed me up in the wrong side of where I needed to be. I took some action steps to try to help my case, quote unquote. And I got talked into going to an AA meeting. I got told, you know, we're going to take you to an AA meeting. Somehow my mom had found a meeting out in Westchester, which is in Chester County, Pennsylvania. Incidentally, I live now in Chester County, Pennsylvania, but at the time I did not know that that's where my recovery path would take me. And that I just thought, all right, I'll go to this random town where no one will know me, go to a meeting that I didn't want to be at only because my dad was getting ready to get out of the car and walk me in. And as I said, I wasn't going to have anybody helping me. So I certainly wasn't having my daddy walk me into a meeting. And that was it. I can't say I had much resistance after I got myself through the door. I remember, you know, not really knowing what I was doing, but that people were giving me suggestions. People were genuinely offering their help and their hand and their love to me, which is something that I didn't find in the regular world. I didn't find in my, you know, just people that I met in school or at work. It was this different kind of friendship or just relationship or just reliability that I wouldn't find with the average person I came across with. And I got more involved. You know, what happens for me, at least in my recovery, is that I do what I'm doing until I start to feel like I'm getting really comfortable. Like if I'm uncomfortable, then I know I'm growing. If I'm probably stressed out because I'm doing too many things, I'm still growing, even though I totally look like I'm stressed out all the time. And I'm working on the self-care part. There's definitely no reason to be perfect at any point. I was never promised I was going to be perfect and cured of all of my ailments. You know, I still stress myself out. I still get cravings. I still have these stupidest thoughts like, there's a bottle of gin. I don't remember the last time I tried gin. I wonder what that tastes like while I'm trying to get myself a cup of coffee. Where that thought came from, I don't know, but that's because I'm an alcoholic. I don't need to know. What I need to do is stay active in this program. And it's things like these young people's committees and going to conferences and speaking for however many meetings that are needed of me is what keeps me grounded. It's what keeps me involved in this program. And it's what keeps me feeling like I'm actually on the path to being that better person that I've always wanted to be. So thank you guys again for letting me speak. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, and hopefully you heard most of, if not all of what I said tonight. Thank you.